Seiko Pepsi mod. My stem is a little bit small, so today I'm going to be fixing that and making sure it's the right size, taking my time with it, and ensuring that all of the hands work accurately. So first, I'm going to give it a little test here. As you can see, it runs just fine, but what's happening is whenever I'm twisting it in, that is when I can wind it. But by the time it's fully twisted in, I can't wind it anymore, and it only winds 3 or 4 times before that. So it's a little small. It works still. The watch will run. I bet if I wore it a little bit more, it would get a good charge, but I don't really want to mess with that. So I'm going to take it apart here and attempt to get the right size on the stem. So yeah, I mean, if you can open it up and see how clean it is. You know, it's a brand new movement. It's the NH35 movement. So you can see how brand new it is, but I'm going to take it out and make sure that I can get the right size of stem in there. So first, trying to find that little button. It's a tiny. If you're into watch making, or if you've taken a watch stem out, you know how tiny the little dot is to look for whenever you're pulling out the stem. Sometimes it's hard to see. I have to play with it a little bit, pull it in and out, set it to different settings until I can find it. But here we go. Obviously, it's a little. You gotta do 2 things at once. You gotta push in the little dot, and then push in the hand, and then you have to pull out the stem. It takes me a few times to do it right now. Just not perfect yet, so can't find the sweet spot very fast, so just bear with me here. There we go. Okay, finally got that taken out there. See, I mean, it's just a crystal clear. I mean, it's a perfect movement. So take the movement out here, inspect it a little bit more. I need to clear out my area, make sure there's no dog hair, make sure there's no dust, particles, all that stuff. So once I get this taken out, I'll try and remember to do that. But step 1 is to remove the movement. See, it's running well right now without the stem in there, so it works. It just needs to have a resized stem on there. So get my movement holder out. I always have trouble putting in the movement on this stand. I don't know if it's just me, but maybe the stand isn't, the proper size, but I mean, it works just fine. I just can't get it in there sturdy enough to where I feel comfortable, putting a little bit of pressure down on one of the screws or trying to unscrew something. I don't feel like it's holding on to the movement very well. But again, maybe that's just me. If anybody else has had experience with that or has any tips, just let me know. So first, making sure it's still running here. Looks good. My stem, I had to find all my extra stems that I have here. Got to resize this guy. So first step is to reattach the crown to a new stem. So we'll do that really fast. I don't have the glue or anything that sticks the stem to the to the crown itself. Makes me a little nervous doing that, because if I don't get it in right, or if I don't do it right, I risk, I have to buy a new crown and a new stem. That's just me. I don't really want to do that. But so trying to not force it in with too much force, but sometimes it does take a second to wiggle it in there and get it clipped in and attached. There we go. Seems to be in there good. Now these are all the settings. I'm all the way out, so time setting in, all the way in. We'll wind the watch. That's what I'm doing right now, winding it up. Just wanted to make sure that the stem's working. And now I need to take the stem, crown and stem, out and put the movement back into the case so I can measure to see how much of it I need to cut. Because you see how long it is. It's pretty crazy when you put the movement and the crown and stem back into the case. It doesn't look nearly as long. I think it's a little underestimated how big our cases are for watches. A lot of people don't realize how much of a difference it makes when you see the watch as a whole and then look at the movement. This movement is, I think it's 29.8 millimeters, and this case is a 40 millimeter case. So it's just a big size difference there. And not a lot of people realize that. So again, got to resize here. As you can see there, this is all the way in. This setting is all the way in to wind it. So I need to take out, I would say, 4 or 5 millimeters extra of this. So let's get the calipers out here and measure it out. Let's see. Put it on the case and then on the edge of the crown. Let's see what we got. I got to do this a few times just to make sure I'm accurate, because I don't want to mess up again. So about 5.1 it looks like. 5.1 millimeters, too much. So got to take out the crown and stem again, pop it out, so I can cut the stem. So when you're cutting the stem, you want to make sure that you're cutting the part where your crown is. I made the mistake of doing the opposite one time, and it still worked fine, but there was some issues with the watch, the movement. The hands wouldn't move right, might not twist, might not wind up very well. So here you want to make sure the ridged lines are what you're cutting. I'm trying to focus this in a little bit so you can see the stem. So I get a Sharpie and I just measure out the right amount. Make a little line on the stem. They're tiny. 1 second here. Okay, so need to mark it there so I can cut right there. Try to focus in again a little bit here so you can see the line. That's how much. Can't see it too well. 1 second. Right there. If you can see the stem, you can kind of see the black dot on there that I made with the Sharpie. I'm not going to cut all the way on the left side of that black dot. I'm going to cut about in the middle of where I made that mark, just to make sure I don't cut too much. I'll probably have to come back and recut, but it's better than just cutting it too big and then you're SOL. So cut it off there a little bit. You can see I left about half of that mark left. I got to get my file out here. I was not set up, so give me a second. got to get my file out so I can even out this cut. I made it a little lopsided, so gotta even that out here. So put my file in. And file down the stem a little bit. This file does not work very well. I bought a pretty cheap one. It's cool. I mean, it comes with a bunch of different shapes and sizes, but you know, it is what it is. Almost forgot to cover up the movement there. Don't want to get the shards of this stem into the movement. You run the risk of ruining it. So forgot to dust off the area earlier, so go ahead and do that now. Make sure I didn't get any particles in here. And it's a pretty clean station, but you know, I always like to be super safe. So there we go. I filed down the crown, or filed down the stem. Now time to put the crown back in and see how much more we need to cut off. So again, since I don't glue my crown to the stem, I don't have to worry about all this. You know, at the end of the day, I haven't looked much into the solution that sticks the stem and the crown together. It could be not a problem at all, but okay. So put it in here. We're all the way out. Last setting. This is the winding setting. So this is your setting 2 here. We still got a little bit of space, so we're gonna see how much more room we need to cut off. I'm measuring it just to be safe, but I would bet that if I just cut off the rest of that Sharpie mark, I'd be in the clear. So it's just wanted to check and make sure it's all the way in. So let's take the crown and stem out again and restart. I know to some people this is a little frustrating. It could be a little frustrating to have to redo the crown and stem so many times, but I would rather do this than cut it short or cut it too much and kind of run the risk of losing out on a stem or needing to buy a new stem, waiting for the shipping to get here. I had just purchased a pack of like 10 or 15 extra stems, so I got pretty lucky that I was able to find some. You can find them literally anywhere. I got mine off AliExpress. That's what this is right here, this little guy. So I'm gonna make another mark here just to make sure I don't cut too much again. I'm not gonna cut right on this mark, but this just shows me what the absolute last part of the stem I can cut. So if I cut any further than this dot, I'm gonna need a replacement. So make sure that I cut it out right. Get this snipped off here. If you're not careful, these guys are gonna go jumping around the room. I try to angle mine down toward the desk, and I don't cut too hard, so I'm able to not lose these pieces. Learn from my mistake last time and set up my movement, close my movement so it's even. Okay, so cutting this up again, smoothing it out. It should be good. This one was a little more sharp. This one was it was cut not the best this time. So, whoa, my focus is